Hey y'all, what's up? It's Meezy and I am finally back. I promise y'all this is my last long time break for the end of till the end of the year. I can't promise what's gonna happen in 2021, but for 2020 y'all get a new y'all get a new video every week for the rest of the year. Bible. But anyways, hello to all my new subscribers. I recently got a lot of subscribers because I went mini viral on Twitter. I posted how it went versus how it's going, with me holding a picture of the cracking the coding interview book, and then me standing in front of the Microsoft sign. I photoshopped it, and it got 6,000 likes, so that was fun. But yeah, so today's video I just wanted to answer some questions. I had meant to post this video a long time ago, but now that I had that momentum going, you know, from that tweet, I'm like, let me do this now. It's what the people need. So today I'm going to be telling y'all everything about my entire interview process. Even though I have all those videos posted about my interview process, I still get questions about how I did it, and you know, what did I study and what did I use and blah blah blah. So that is what this video is going to be for today. So do a couple things for me: like this video, subscribe to my channel, and just keep watching. If you hear the yelling, I have two little brothers. They play video games. They scream. That's all I can say. People always ask, how long did you study? I started studying late November, right after I got back from Afrotech, and then I studied up until February. So I took a couple weeks off for the holidays. So one, I took off a few days during Thanksgiving and a week during the Christmas holidays. Probably a little bit more than a week, honestly, because I needed some time to recuperate. So probably didn't start studying again until January 4th. But for the most part, during all of those weeks, that's what, 6 to 8, it was 6 weeks. I studied 4 hours a day on the weekdays. So Monday through Friday I was studying 4 hours a day, and then weekends, Saturday and Sunday, I was studying 8 hours a day. So a total of 36 hours a week I was studying, on top of going to work full time, so those 40 hours a week. And then I was also posting so much on YouTube. I was doing Vlogmas in December, so I was posting every single day for 2 weeks straight, and I was still studying. So I had a lot going on back then. I'm really not sure how I made it through all of that, but I did, and I'm glad that I did. Another thing, people are like, oh, how long did you study before you started interviewing? Quite honestly, I got offered an interview for a startup, and I just took it. I was like, you know what, let's just see what happens. This might be, you know, my lucky day. I might interview with this company and crush it. Long story short, I did not. I did terrible. It was a total flop. But it just I don't know, I just had to put myself out there, because I guess I say all of that to say that you will never just feel ready to start interviewing. There's always gonna be one more algorithm you can learn, or one more data structure that you can master. You just have to do it. I would say to study for a month, because everybody says to study for a month. No matter, almost any of the big companies you interview with, they say, oh, our candidates normally study for a month, which is a whole problem in itself. But give yourself a month to study and then start doing your interviews. I just feel any more time than that, and you're kind of just gonna give yourself some grace, and I don't know, just do your month and then start interviewing. Hit the ground running. Also, I just very much wanted to get out of the job that I was currently in, and so that was part of my motivation to hurry up and start interviewing and to study as intensely as I did. And if you don't know, I am a full-time software engineer, and I've been a full-time software engineer since 2017. So during my job hunt last year in 2019, I was a software engineer, so it wasn't I didn't do software engineering stuff in the daytime. even as a software engineer, I still had to study a lot for these interviews because they are nothing like the job that you do. But again, that's a totally different story, totally different video. What else? So how did I know I was ready? Oh, so what to study. So I did a thread about this on Twitter. So if you want to go check that out on my Twitter and follow me. But actually, let's just take a look at that. Okay, so I went to go tell my little brother to stop yelling, and as I'm talking about this book, I see that homegirl that wrote Cracking the Code interview, she saw my tweet. So, I mean, it means something. I don't know what it means, but it means something. Wow. Okay, so I'm just going through my Twitter thread. If you want the full download, go check out the Twitter thread. You don't need a Twitter to look at my Twitter thread. But if you do have a Twitter, you should follow me because I tweet gems all the time and random stuff. So follow me. But the things that you definitely need to study are strings, lists and arrays, linked lists, stacks and queues, binary search trees, and regular trees. They're not the same. Don't forget that. The algorithms you want to know are depth first search and breadth first search. Merge sort, bubble sort, insertion sort, those are big ones. You definitely need to know design patterns. And then, what is it called? System design. Those are the things that you absolutely, positively need to make sure you have on lock. Because they are going to come up in some form or fashion. Like recursion, you absolutely need to know recursion. Dynamic programming, that's another one, which kind of is just recursion. But those are the things, because they are absolutely gonna come up in the interview, like no doubt. There's going to be some interview where these things come up. I will say I had all of these except, oh, how did I? Oh, I did put linked list. Okay. I actually didn't get a linked list question. Now that I think about it, I did not get a linked list question, but I prepared so hard for those. And I didn't get a binary search tree question, and I practiced really hard for those. But you definitely want to be, you need to be solid in those, because you will get one. Actually, no, I did get them. I just did so many interviews that I forgot about it. It just wasn't in one of my later interviews. I didn't get any in my in-person interviews. All right, so those are all the things you need to study. If I did not say something on that list and you are interviewing for anything that's not senior and above, don't spend time on it. Like, focus more on those things. You can kind of touch on like red and black trees and AVL trees and stuff like Dijkstra's algorithm and all that madness. Like, I would say be aware of it, that way you can speak to it, but like do not spend time trying to memorize all of that. Like, at minimum, let's say somebody asks you a Dijkstra's algorithm question, you could just be like, oh, well, I know that Dijkstra's algorithm, or like you could recognize the problem that they gave you is Dijkstra's algorithm, but you couldn't solve it. I mean, if somebody is asking you those like hardcore concepts, they probably weren't gonna hire you in the first place. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I just can't imagine why you would ask somebody that in a 45-minute interview. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Okay, so I think that kind of covers the questions that they asked me. Oh, this video is not specific to Microsoft. Oh, I feel like I should have said this at the beginning of the video. I'm not like a Microsoft advocate, none of that. I just happen to work there. Everything that I say on this channel is purely all me. I'm not endorsed by them. They don't sponsor my videos, none of that. So all me, this is all my words, and I am not like a recruiter or any of that kind of business, so take all my tips with a grain of salt. I've just been through the process recently. Okay, so how, let's kind of like dial back. How do these interviews work? So most of the time, this is what happens. They reach out to you on LinkedIn. They say, oh, can we set up a quick chat? You have a quick chat, and that's kind of like the initial screening, just to see if it's worth it to put you through to an interview. By the end of the chat, they'll be like, okay, well, let me get your information and I'll try to set you up for an interview. Or they'll just say, we'll set you up for an interview. Boom, you book the interview. Then you do your first round, which is, okay, also I interviewed pre-COVID, so I had an in-person part, but you book your first interview, and this will be on the phone, and 9 times out of 10 y'all either hop into a Google Doc together, or they'll have some coding platform that you and one of the engineers hop on, and you will code while they watch. It might be some pair programming, but most of the time it'll be mostly you, because they want to see how you think. Make sure you talk through the problems. Like, even if you know the answer, talk through it. Basically, use this interview as a chance to show your teaching skills. And even if you don't want to make it to where you're teaching, just narrate what you're doing. So like, okay, so here I'm going to use an if statement to do blah, blah, blah because of blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, just continuously explain what you are doing and why you are doing it, because it's cool if you can solve the problem, but you might have just seen that problem in the practice that you were doing, and that's why you knew the answer. So you need to make sure that you know how to do the problem and explain it as you're going. Also, it's just a little awkward if nobody's talking, so just keep talking. Like, do not stop talking, just keep talking. It sounds silly, but there will be natural breaks, but for the most part, you need to be talking in the interview. And then if you are talking through things, the interviewer can kind of like guide you if you're like moving the wrong direction. But if you don't say anything, then it's kind of just like, okay, well, I don't know what they're thinking, so I don't know what to say next, or to get them to go in the right direction. So that's your first interview, is over the phone, and you do the little coding exercise. Then if you make it through that, you'll get moved to the in-person round, what used to be the in-person round, and that will be your on-site. That's what most people call it, because you would go on-site to the offices. Ugh. There's a mosquito in my room. You would go to the office and you would do a full day of interviews, literally 5 hours of interviews. And it would be, for me, I did 4 interviews. Yeah, I think mine was 4. And then I've seen some people have 5. So it's normally between 4 and 5 interviews. And the thing is, you already know that you're gonna have these 3 interviews, right? There's always going to be the first 3. The 4th interview / last interview is tentative. And so the word on the street is that if you get that last interview, then you got the job. Like, there's a very, very, very high chance that you got the job, because that last interview is gonna be with like a hiring manager or like a director or like somebody that makes the big decisions on the team, that can decide if they want to put you through. So that last interview should clue you in. I don't know if it's true, but what I can say is I made it to the 4th interview and I got the job. So I mean, I would, you know, maybe some teams just know in 3 interviews, I don't know, but I can tell you that I personally, I think that's the truth, okay? So yeah, if and most of the time on those interview days where you do those 4 interviews in a day, 3 of them will be coding and 1 of them will be behavioral. Like, they'll call it a lunch interview and you think you're not just having lunch. It's still an interview. You barely get to eat. You're super nervous. You're not even hungry, so you try to eat a little bit so you seem normal. But yeah, so it's still part of the interview. It still matters. It's not weighted as much because it's more of them trying to get to know you and see how you would work on a team. But like, all together, it's still part of the interview. So like, be cute when you eat, you know what I'm saying? Oh, so another thing is like, how did I even get my interview? Let me back up a little bit. I interviewed with Facebook, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, a not a biometrics company, I guess so. It was kind of like 23andMe, except they worked with doctors and not the direct public. Who else? I interviewed with some startup in San Francisco. I know, super descriptive. I interviewed with some like it was a company for hire. It was like the entire company was a contractor, so it wasn't like I was interviewing to be a contractor. Like the company just worked on certain projects. I don't know how to explain that. Those are ones that I actually got interviews for. Okay, now as far as quick chats, I mean, I couldn't even go down the list of the number of places I did quick chats with. And I actually had a list of what I wanted out of a job. Since I had already been working, I already hated the job that I was currently at. I had a list of stuff that I wanted. So sometimes I had quick chats and the positions that they had just didn't fit what I wanted. And then other times I had quick chats and like I just didn't have the experience that they wanted. And either way, I was fine with that because I wasn't going to go somewhere that I didn't want to go, and I wasn't going to go somewhere that I wasn't wanted. So definitely make a list of exactly what you want in a job as far as pay, location, culture, benefits, all that kind of stuff, and have your non-negotiables, and make sure you don't break your non-negotiables. So what did I use to prepare for my interview? So I had a mix of 3 things. I had Cracking the Code and Interview, the book. I had Cracking the Code and Interview. I had Leak Code. I didn't pay for it. I said I wasn't gonna pay for it unless I was super desperate, and thankfully I got a job offer before I got to that desperate level. My mic has not been on this whole time. Wow. I hope the video sounds good because I just turned on my mic and it is what it is. So what did I use to study? I used Cracking the Coding Interview, I used Leak Code, the free version, and then I used, I would watch YouTube videos. When it came to questions, I would watch Back to Sui, and I'll link all those things down in the description. So I had those 3 things because for Leak Code, that is a website where you go in and you answer questions. They're mostly interview questions. They're very popular interview questions. And if you pay, you can get questions that have been asked at specific companies. But I'm gonna tell y'all right now, all these companies, they ask the same kinds of questions. Like there's nothing, unless you know the exact position you are interviewing for and they ask very specific things, you can use the same materials to study for all of them, which is what I did because like I said, I had interviews with all those companies lined up and they were back to back, like every week. Oh, I also interviewed with Bloomberg. They were back to back to back every week. Like every Friday I was interviewing with somebody. So yes, you can use the same materials to study for all those companies. So when I would use Leak Code, it was when I felt like typing and compiling and running and just consistently running drills and doing questions. And then if I didn't feel like typing on a computer and I wanted to take it back to back in the day and I just felt like scribbling on paper and hearing the graphite, is that what it and feeling the lead hit the paper, I would use Cracking the Coding Interview. Also, I use Cracking the Coding Interview to kind of like ground myself. Like that's where I always knew I could find information that was correct. So I use Cracking the Coding Interview for that. And Cracking the Coding Interview is good because it has problems and it also walks you through the solutions. So it's very helpful in that way. And then when I just did not have the energy to do either one of those things, I would go to YouTube. Now remember when I said I studied 4 hours a day? If I was watching YouTube, I don't think there was any days where I only watched YouTube because that wouldn't have been very helpful. Like it's cool to watch, but you have to practice for it to stay in your mind. But let's just say I did watch YouTube videos, like I would have to add an extra hour because 1, YouTube videos are very long, like one question can be 30 minutes, and 2, YouTube videos, I was watching them. Oh, and 2, it just like didn't take as much like energy out of me to watch a video as it did to actually sit down and solve a problem. So yes, those are the 3 things I would rotate between, and it literally just depended on how I felt that day, what I did. Now on my 8-hour study days, I was always either leak coding or using cracking the code in interview, and when I took my breaks, I would watch a YouTube video. I mean, I was all coding interview stuff all the time, y'all. Like, it was not a game for me. I had to get out. All right, and so I guess the last thing that I have to talk about is what happened when I got the offer. So I did my interview, let's just say, oh, it was the week after Valentine's Day. It was the Friday after that. So like the 21st of February, I did my in-person interview, and then it wasn't even a whole week. It was probably like 5 days. It was on a Wednesday when I got the call, and they told me that I had an offer, and that was super exciting. So I waited about, I had to wait about 3 business days to hear back from them. They did schedule a call, so I feel like if they schedule a call, it's a yes. If they would have scheduled a call and it was a no, I probably would have jumped out of my 7th floor window. I know that's dramatic, but I was just not having a good time. And then what else? Oh, and then I just started negotiations, and yeah, now here I am. So that is that. I will make a few more specific videos on certain stuff. So I'll make one on like negotiations, because I'm sure a lot of people need help with that. And oh, I'm also going to start a series using cracking the code in interview and leak code and stuff like that, just answering questions. I started one like in April, but that was when the world had first turned upside down, or it was right after the world turned upside down. It was too much for me, girl. I had just moved back to Dallas. Like, it was just a lot. So yeah, that's everything. And I think I'm about to run out of time on my camera, so okay, so I didn't run out of time. So make sure that y'all like this video, subscribe, leave questions down below in the comments. Please leave them in the comments. I don't mind answering DMs, but if you leave a comment on the video, it can help somebody else out. And just good luck to y'all. Don't give up. It's really hard. Like I said, it was a really long process. Even though I didn't start studying until November, my job search had begun way before then. It's a really taxing process. Looking for a job is a job in itself, so don't be too hard on yourself, but like make sure that you are going hard enough to reach your goals. And with that, I will see y'all in the next one next week. Bye.